Hey everyone, it's Jim Banks. I'm back. I've been away for a sabbatical from digital marketing stories. I set up another podcast in the meantime. I thought I would take a break from digital marketing stories before I started season 3. And I'm delighted to have a fantastic guest for you to kick off season 3. I've got Kirsten Graham. Where are you calling in from, Kirsten?
I'm in Sarasota, Florida.
And I normally say, rather than me butchering anything that's bio, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business and how you got into business?
Sure. So I'm the co-owner of Six Figure Business Coaching along with my partner, Jeannie Wilson. And we really work with clients to help them outsource and automate a lot of the things that they do in their business, things like marketing, bookkeeping, things like setting up your funnels and your website and your lead magnets, things like that. Our goal is to help people really lean into the support that they need, whether it's automation or delegation, to grow their businesses.
And how long ago did you start the business?
It's been a little over 15 years ago. So yeah, it's had a lot of different directions. Businesses never seem to take a straight line. So we really started our business partnership because Jeannie owned a marketing agency and I had left real estate in the end of 2013 and really started my coaching business full time at that point. And over the years, we've realized that small business owners often they just need simple and basic support. So maybe they can't afford a large agency, a marketing agency, or they can't afford $300 or $400 a month for bookkeeping, or they don't need a tech support person on staff, but they need them 3 or 4 hours a month to help them with their software. So we found a way to bridge the gap and fill that void. And we work with a lot of solopreneurs, a lot of people in the service-based industry. And our message is you don't have to do it all yourself. And I think that's because being a business owner can be lonely at times. So we want to make sure the business owners get the support that they need and enjoy their business more because they're doing more what they love.
And you're a podcaster. I looked at your podcast beforehand. You've done about 120 episodes, which again is phenomenal. And you use video a lot for kind of some of your content creation. What is it that made you decide on videos being useful for that purpose?
Yeah, I'm going to say something bold and maybe crazy, but I believe YouTube is going to be as important to business owners as a website was back in the 90s and 2000s. I feel like video marketing, and with AI on the scene, I feel like video marketing is even more important because people are going to want that connection. And Jim, rather than meeting you face to face, like in person, video is the second best thing. And if you and I met regularly on Zoom, over time, we feel like we know each other. And then if we did run into each other in person, we already have a relationship, right? And so I feel like video is incredibly powerful and every business owner can find a way to leverage it.
I always say I've got a face for radio, but I'm at the point now where it's really what comes out of my mouth that matters, not how I look or anything like that. I'm way too old to worry about what people think about wrinkles and whatever else. It's just whatever. No big deal.
Same here.
I'm interested to understand a little bit. So in terms of like the community that you serve, how do they find you and what is it that attracts them to you than other business coaches or other like podcast coaches?
Yeah. So we have 2 podcasts. We're getting ready to start another YouTube channel about starting businesses and growing businesses. So we're very active on video. We tend to attract a lot of real estate agents because my background is real estate. And then we also work with a lot of coaches because again, also Jeannie and I both are in the coaching space. So we get a lot of business from our content and people. And what's amazing is when people reach out to us because they've watched a few of our videos, they are actually quoting things I've said or things that Jeannie has said. And Jim, like you brought up before we started recording, my dog, she's often popping into videos and they'll even ask about my dog. So when people find you through your video content, they feel like they already have a relationship with you. And so they're also more or less sold on what you do. So I thought that was very, very powerful. And I find it to be, right up there next to getting a referral from a client who absolutely adores you, is one of your raving fans, and they send someone over to you. It's that same type of relationship coming from video. They feel like they know us. So that's where most of our comes from.
Yeah, no, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, so we get a lot of referrals. We have a lot of business that comes in through our networking. We also do things like we teach masterclasses. So we have a masterclass for real estate agents on marketing and also on finances and bookkeeping. In some states, those are actually approved for CE credits. So other companies will bring us in to provide those classes for the agents to get the CE. So we have a lot of different opportunities. We're often asked to speak. I personally hate public speaking and Jeannie loves it. So we kind of balance that out there. But yeah, just finding connecting with the right people so important in our businesses. I think a lot of times when people think about video marketing, they think going viral. Well, the reality is you don't have to have a massive audience to bring in a lot of business. You just have to have the right audience.
Yeah, it's funny. I was watching a video that Alex Hormozy was doing with Sam Ovens. They're kind of, so Sam created School, which is a community-led platform, and Alex Hormozy is an investor in it. I mean, they did a 2-hour basically talk through about, they had a whole bunch of their top school community owners in the room, and they were talking a little bit about what they were doing. And for me, again, it's fascinating. I think a lot of people, like here in the UK, we have something called Marmite, and it's one of those things, you either love it or you hate it, right? And I think Alex Hormozy is a little bit like that. Either people love everything that he says and does, or they really don't like it. I mean, you could also probably throw Gary Vaynerchuk in the same bucket, right? People either love Gary V or they hate him, right? And there's no in between. There's no sort of middle line. And again, I've always maintained that when you're in business, sometimes you're going to break eggs and you have to kind of shake the tree a little bit, because at the end of the day, nobody that's completely passive the whole time will really get on. You have to be prepared to get up there, roll your sleeves up and just get on and do stuff, right? And I think sometimes having, whether it's a masterclass or a community or something, that gives you an element of accountability, because most people, when they work for themselves, they're working on their own. They have maybe their families to support them. And sometimes the family supports them by saying, hey, look, you need to spend more time with the kids, or you need to take the trash out, or this, that, and the other. Sometimes it's very difficult to get that balance. And I think sometimes when you have a community of people who are like-minded, share the same experiences, can bounce off each other. And I've always found that those types of networking, whether it is in person, I used to do a lot of in-person speaking before COVID, less so since then. But I always found in-person events invaluable. A lot of people say, oh, I don't need to go to them, I can just do Zoom. I think you miss some of that three-dimensional thing by having the kind of in-person event rather than the actual face-to-face. So do you do any kind of in-person stuff at all as far as your masterclass? You go arrange to meet people?
Sure. Yeah. I'm actually speaking on August 15th at a local event here with a lady that I met through another networking group. I am very involved in our chamber. I'm involved in several networking groups in our community. And part of that is because I can spend 10 hours a day in Zoom meetings, whether it's coaching clients or having sales calls or whatever. So I really need to get out of the house and get fresh air. And like you said, there's a different relationship when you're meeting people in the 3D world, I guess you'd say. But one of the things I often say to clients is there's no such thing as really an online or offline business. In most cases, even if you are a coach and you can work with anyone anywhere, there's $1 million of business in your own backyard if you live in a halfway decent sized city. So being able to realize that you can have clients locally or from anywhere around the world is important. But I think when it comes to marketing, you really want to lean into what you enjoy doing. And because I think that makes it a lot easier if we're doing what we like doing. And what I have found we work with a lot of women. And when you talked about not caring what people think about you on video, I think it is hard for a lot of people to be vulnerable and put ourselves out here and get on video. And, no one likes the way they sound on video. So we spend a lot of time talking about how to show up as yourself on video. And like you said, breaking the eggs. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Jim, you're not everyone's cup of tea. We both, yeah. And I'm good with that, right? Because if you don't like the way I talk with my hands, or you don't believe in the values that we have or the things that we think are important in our business, and you can learn that through our content, then you're not going to reach out to me, which is great. Because if I'm not the right person for you, there's someone out there who can serve you, and then you're not wasting your time or my time. So I hate to say it, in some ways, video marketing can really, like I said, attract your ideal clients, but can also save you some time by not attracting people who really would not be a good fit for you and what you do.
Yeah, because I think, again, I always find when it comes to, once I finish recording a podcast episode, I usually send it to Descript to get the transcript. And then from there, I can remove filler words if I want to. And I found the more podcast episodes I've done, I mean, I use a lot of filler words, right? So lots of ums, lots of lots of kind ofs, right. I say right all the time. And it's, for me, it's just that's me. That's my DNA. That's who I am. And I just said it there. And I think sometimes it's probably because I sold insurance for 12 years. And quite often, if you're talking to somebody, you want to make sure that they understand what you're saying. And by using, or to understand it, like you can make sure you haven't lost them somewhere back here when you're trying to close some business. So for me, it was very difficult. So, but what I found was, like I said, that with the podcasting side of things, I just found that more people seem to like the authentic, unedited, kind of rough stuff than the polished, all the sort of polished intros and everything else. And I think, again, it's a real challenge because people talk about, say, YouTube, and I think you mentioned it before. YouTube absolutely, I think, is the future. I think here in the UK, it's now become the second highest media consumption platform, and it's just overtaken one of the commercial TV stations for people watching basically TV, right? People are watching connected TV and they're watching YouTube on it rather than, like, it's called ITV. Is the only one that's ahead of them now is the BBC, and I'm pretty sure in just a few years' time they'll probably be ahead of the BBC. And it's like anyone under the age of 40, right, probably doesn't watch terrestrial TV, as we call it. I don't know what you call it over there, but terrestrial TV at all, right? They just literally watch Netflix, Amazon Prime, YouTube, Paramount. That's it. That's all they watch. And because of that, I think that's part of the reason why some of the content creators have moved from, say, CNN. I mean, a lot of the CNN sort of news reporters are absolutely killing it now on Substack, right? Because they can go live and they can interview people and they don't have to worry about how they dress and how they look, and they can swear if they want to. There's none of that sort of filtering that used to apply when they were an anchor for CNN, right? And they genuinely seem to be loving doing what they're doing, right? I mean, Piers Morgan was a guy, again, he's you either love him or you don't love him. And again, he's now got over 4 million subscribers on YouTube, and he's become one of the most successful podcasters, right? By virtue of the fact that although it's a sort of talk show, you can either listen to it or you can watch it. And if you watch it, it just enhances the experience by seeing people. But if you listen to it, you still get the context. There's no product demonstrations or screenshots, presentations. It's all just literally people could turn the picture off for this, listen to the audio on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and get the same experience as the people watching it on YouTube. But the people watching on YouTube may get some other stuff that we leave in and everything else. And I think that the challenge for me is, like, when you read all about getting views on YouTube, I want to try and be conscious, as you said, of the people who I'm serving's time, right? So for me, I always put a timestamp in terms of, this is what we talked about in this period here. So if somebody wants to come in and dip into an episode 25 minutes into it, that's great. I'm happy for them to do that. And if it's a 4-minute segment, great. They can watch that 4 minutes. And if they like it, they'll probably go, well, that was pretty good. I'll go back and listen to some others and watch others and that sort of thing. So for me, I'm much more interested in doing that, right, than having the vanity of having people staying on my podcast for 4 hours, 2 hours. I'm much more concerned about the people watching rather than my own kind of ego. My ego doesn't really matter. I just care about my guests and I care about the people listening or watching the podcast to get value out of it.
It's so funny you say that, because a lot of our clients do start video podcasts. And it's interesting. I think if you do focus on your guests and your listeners, you'll always win, right? We always tell our guests, our goal is to make you look like a rock star. Like, we want you to have a great experience. We want this episode to be something that you're proud to promote and that showcases you and your unique abilities. And I think when you focus on your audience and your guest, again, it comes through as authentic and real, and people feel like you're a giver. And in a world of takers, it's so nice to be around somebody who wants to truly serve people rather than, just rack up subscribers or views, or not that those things aren't important, but if you focus on what is really important, those things will follow.
Yeah, I always say my YouTube channel has probably got one of the slowest growths ever. I think I've been on YouTube for about 12 years and I'm approaching 400 subscribers. But I know, because I've had it happen to me, I've been to lots of conferences, spoken at conferences all around the world. I know a lot of people have watched and listened to some of my podcast episodes, and therefore they're consuming my content. The fact they don't subscribe, I don't care. I mean, again, I'm not so vain that I need to care about whether they subscribe to the channel or not. I'd love them to subscribe, because that's almost like a good signal to say, yeah, I like that. That was good. But generally speaking, I'm a lot less kind of bothered about it from a vanity perspective.
So for that reason, you guys should all subscribe to Jim's channel. Show him some love.
Oh, you're so kind. So your community is kind of like so helping people to grow to six figures, right? 100,000. I've had a few conversations backwards and forwards with people. Why is that number so important? What is it about $100,000 that is so instrumental in helping people to succeed?
Yeah. So when you think about that concept, if you talk to everyone, you talk to no one. So when we started thinking about who do we truly want to serve, we want to serve the people who, are in their business. Maybe they're making 50,000, 75. Maybe they have hit 100 and they want to hit 250. Or people who are they're newer. Maybe they're really just getting started in their business. We know early on if those people will leverage things like evergreen content by YouTube, or if they'll take advantage of leaning into automations and things like that, they can save them a lot of time and really help them build and nurture the people that are on their list. Or even bookkeeping. It's interesting. There's such a great statistic among people who are successful and the fact that they are on top of their finances, on top of their numbers compared to people who are not. And if you're worried at tax time because you have no idea how much money you brought in or where that money went, and you're not prepared at all for tax time, that causes a lot of stress and it takes you away from focusing on growing your business. So for us, it's really, yeah. And I think with our Love Your Profit program, our goal is ultimately to help our clients fall in love with their money. And when you understand your money, then you can make decisions. Like you run ads for people, you've been running ads for ages. So a person needs to understand where their finances are to determine, is this the right time to hire an expert to run ads for me? Do I have enough cash flow consistently coming in to have a good ad budget for the next 4 to 6 months or whatever you recommend? And they can't do that without really having a close relationship with their finances, where their money's coming from, and what those cycles look like for their clients as far as buying. So that's important to us. The other thing when it comes to growing your business to six figures and beyond, it's understanding that we have to market our businesses consistently. And we had a client who was super successful. She actually does professional organizing. So she goes into people's houses and helps them organize. But she was also amazing at marketing. The problem was she would market, she'd get a few clients, and then she's really busy doing client work. She's huffing it around the hot garages, organizing and working in their homes. And then she's at home with her children in the evenings. So her income was always this roller coaster simply because when she'd start working with clients, she just stopped marketing. And once she outsourced the marketing, it was interesting for her, she had a dilemma of not knowing how she felt ethically about hiring someone overseas rather than hiring someone locally. And so we talked a lot about that, and she ultimately decided to do that. And what happened was her business grew to the point where now she employs 4 or 5 other professional organizers in her area to take on client work. So sometimes people think outsourcing might be one or the other. Oh, you're going to send all of your money to someone overseas rather than hiring someone locally. But we have found that businesses that actually invest in getting support early on actually build their businesses faster, and then can often bring on people in the States or hire, like I said, agencies like you to do things for them.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned about like building a list. I found, again, I've always said one of the best secrets that most of the successful YouTubers have is they have a really big email list. So whenever they have a new episode gets put out, they can send out an email, send it out to people. And before you know it, you've had 50,000 views of a video right out the gates. And obviously the views per hour is one of the most important metrics that YouTube look for. Like, its views per hour is a metric that they value. I mean, if the velocity of people watching it is high, they're more likely to show it to other people because they'll assume that it's a good video that other people should see as well. And that's what I found is quite often the secret to why somebody can drop a video and within minutes they've got 20,000 views on a video, and it's very successful because of that, right? So they've actually become good email marketers as well as content creators on YouTube. So
yeah, and if we flip that from the fact that Jeannie's been helping people market for the past 20 plus years, we have seen things happen. Websites crash, people forget to pay for their domain name, and then they can't get it back for a couple of months. Or early on,
they didn't renew google.com because somebody had worked for Google. He was the person who registered it, and he left the company and nobody kind of took over his email. So it just lapsed. And
Right. Yeah. And as a business owner, those are things easy to happen. You miss paying for your domain name and now all of a sudden you can't get it for 60 days, whatever that case may be. But with being involved with Facebook early on, back when Facebook first had fan pages, it was so exciting to see business owners hop on Facebook and really just get amazing traction early on. The mistake a lot of people made was they didn't lean into also having a website or having an email list. And then what happened was along the way, if anything happened to Facebook, Facebook blocked them or Facebook stopped pushing their content out, all of a sudden their business was dying on the vine because that was really their only outlet. And so I think it's important to have the email list because we never know what's going to happen with any of the social media platforms that we're on. An email allows you to have direct contact with your customers. But it's interesting if we take the flip side of what you were talking about, people that have massive email lists and they send out their videos and they get massive views. On the flip side of that, from a coaching perspective, when I ask clients if they have an email list, they'll often say yes. And it may be a list of 50, it could be 500, it could be 5,000. But what's always fascinated me is when you ask, well, how often do you email them? And sometimes I've never emailed them. They signed up for my lead magnet and they got a couple emails after that and that was it. So one of the things that we have found is that business owners are busy, but in order to nurture and maintain relationships with people who are on your email list, you need to at least email them once a week. And that's where I feel like so many people's videos or their podcasts come in handy. So if you have a business, you have a small to mid-sized email list and you're not emailing them, you're missing out on opportunity. But now if you create this video once a week, you have something fantastic to send to your email list. And it's always fascinating when we're working with people who literally get business from sending out their first video. And it's because the person was already on their list. The person already knew them. Maybe they hadn't heard from them in months. But one case was a real estate agent. They sent out their first video. The woman got a call and it was basically like, hey, I didn't even know you'd have gone into real estate till I saw your video. And I'd love to know, do you work with people who buy land? I want to buy some land. And so we see this often is that people, once they really start using their email list and they promote their video content through that, they end up getting business that way.
Yeah, because again, I'm always amazed. People that go into business for themselves, they're always apologizing for trying to sell things to people. I'm like, why? Again, I always said, don't present somebody with a problem that you have a solution for, and then don't give them the solution. You need to help solve the problem. That's part of the reason why, in a lot of cases, you're showing them a problem or talking to them about a problem they're completely oblivious to having. They don't know that they got to do taxes. They don't know they need an accountant or bookkeeper. They don't know that hosting could be an issue. They don't know that domains can kind of lapse. Whereas people like us, we've been doing it for a while. Sometimes we know through our own missteps that can be an issue. So for me, it's sort of like that's part of the reason of what you bring to the table, right? You can bring that experience to the table to ensure that they can mitigate for as many of those sorts of issues as possible while they just focus on growing their business. And as you say, I've been outsourcing work to, I started off, initially I used to outsource development work to Russia, and then Russian developers became too expensive, so I outsourced it to India. And then it became too expensive. I outsourced to Ukraine. And now a lot of the work that I do for bookkeeping and stuff like that is done through the Philippines. But equally, I've seen sort of situations where there's a lot of people that work in the armed forces, and people uproot from where they are to go be posted overseas, still want to work, but don't have the flexibility to be able to do a 9-to-5 job or whatever. Whereas somebody like me who can offer them, look, I pay for contractors to do a lot of work. And I always say, look, I don't really care when you do the work as long as the work gets done. So if you have kids, you can build your workload around the kids, right? Going to school, picking them up, whatever. If you have toddlers, then they might go for a sleep for a couple of hours. You can do a couple of hours of work. And again, for me, it's much more about, are we delivering the results that our clients expect of us? Not are we all in the office between 9 and 5 and here's proof of that. Right, because I've always maintained, if a client wants to start managing you that way, they're not the sort of client for us. And we would typically resign an account like that. Like, honestly, if they want to micromanage our time, they don't employ us, right? They hire us to provide value, right? We're a performance agency. If we don't perform, we expect to be kicked out, right? We just don't expect to have them as clients for long. Equally, if they don't help us to help them, right? So if we say, hey, we need this to be done, and they go, well, we can't do that for 6 months, then I'm not going to be on the hook for the performance not being good, because I've identified the problem now, and
Yes.
they know what their solution is. And if they can't prioritize it, then, that's on them, not on me, really. So
Yeah. It's interesting because we've outsourced over the past, I think it's been 18, 19 years now. We've outsourced to 6 different countries. We've literally hired hundreds of virtual assistants and trained them for our clients. And it's interesting. One of the things that we teach to both our clients and the virtual assistants that we hire are cultural differences. Sometimes I think when it comes to managing someone overseas or having someone work for you halfway around the world, we forget about cultural differences. And a great thing is Americans, we communicate very aggressively compared to a lot of people in the rest of the world. And we don't know that we communicate aggressively, and we don't necessarily mean it to be aggressive. It just sounds aggressive. So Filipinos are the opposite. They communicate very softly, very kindly, and very respectfully. And so talking about those differences in communication styles and how to bridge the gap and handle it, little things like that really caught us early on were things that we've been able to really bring to the table for education for both our clients and their VAs, making it easier for both sides to have the win-win. And you're so right, though. It's interesting to see people move from country to country when it comes to outsourcing based on pricing. And it's interesting how different countries really specialize in different niches of who's great with a website design or who's great with different types of marketing or writing and things. So it's interesting when you think about outsourcing and specialties.
yeah, I mean, I found to my cost, I outsourced a lot of, we called it grunt work. That made it sound that it wasn't important and didn't matter, but it really did matter a lot. And I outsourced some of the kind of the more mundane stuff, day-to-day things that probably AI could take care of like easily now. But at the time, it couldn't. And I outsourced it to India. And what I found was that my team in the office where I was were basically palming off all the stuff they didn't want to do to the people in India, rather than the people in India doing the things that we hired them for. They were just, and again, I've got in no way at all is this a kind of detrimental to Indian people, but I just find that they're much better at doing things that are less creative. And I don't mean that, like I said, in a derogatory way, but sometimes English isn't necessarily their first language. So it is sometimes get lost in translation. So I wouldn't give them copywriting, ad copy, things like that. But my team were, and the kind of ad copy was coming back and it wasn't very good. And it wasn't until I realized that that's kind of what was happening, that I was in there able to change what we were doing and how we were doing it. I mean, I went over to India for about 10 days to train the 7 people that I'd hired to do the work. I wanted them trained my way. And the guy who I was outsourcing the work to, he actually said, Jim, it's all right if I put some more people in the room so that they can learn as well? I'm like, sure. So I ended up, I think I was training about 35 people. And I trained them all my way of managing paid ads. And it turned out, I mean, I sold my company in 2006, I think for $4 million. He sold his company about 2 years later, 2008, for $40 million. So, what was really interesting is that he was able to go and talk to some of the big financial institutions in India and show them how good they were at doing the stuff that I taught a lot of his staff on, which I thought was genius, really. So they were able to hire a local kind of team of people, but they had the expertise of people that weren't local. So
Yeah. It's interesting. One of the other things you just brought up was AI. And it used to be the saying was eliminate, automate, delegate. Now it's really eliminate things that don't need to be done in your business. So often we waste time spinning our wheels on things that just don't matter. But then the next step is, can you use AI to get it done quickly and efficiently? Can you automate it, or can you outsource it? Can you delegate it? And those 3 things, when you combine them together, I think is your real win. Our VAs are all trained on different types of AI. We work with our clients on all different types of prompts that they can use for their scripts and their content, for their landing pages and lead magnets. So we need to take all of those tools and figure out how to combine them in the way that makes the most sense based on each person's skill set and what they enjoy doing within their business.
yeah, because they're not all LLMs are not the same. They all do a different sort of job in some regards. Again, I got an email this morning from Google. They're obviously pimping quite hard their Gemini and all the tools around that. So they were trying to show an example of somebody being able to create all this stuff, but they must have cited probably 12 different AI related products, right? And I'm like, whoa, this is way too complicated. And probably complicated equals expensive. That's what I was thinking in my mind, that they were talking about using VO and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, whoa, this just, again, let's just try and dumb it down. I think that's one of the challenges sometimes, certainly when I'm buying ads. I always find sometimes agencies overcomplicate something that should be really, really simple, right? Ultimately, people should be, I used to sell insurance for a living, and it was always feature, advantage, benefit, right? You always need to focus on the benefit, not on what the feature is. And so many people are going out selling things on features, right? And people, again, I don't care what the features are. I just care what the benefit. What does it do for me? Not what is it and everything else. That's not really what it's about. It's about the benefits that I get from it.
Absolutely. And sometimes with AI, I think that's hard because we don't always know what the benefits are when we first try to find a new AI tool and figure out if we're going to learn it and how we're going to implement it. But yeah, I think that's one thing we always need to ask ourselves, because learning AI tools can be time consuming. And I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm just saying we need to always ask ourselves, like, what are the true benefits to me and my business if I learn to use this tool effectively?
Yeah. And I still to this day think there's probably like 85, 90% of all the people that say they're using AI are just going copy from some prompt they've seen somewhere else, paste, enter, done. That's it. That's all they do. And if that's what they've arrived at, then terrific. But that's not really the way the problems are going to be solved for businesses. So
No, not at all. And AI has so many incredible uses and possibilities. But I do think it's hard, especially if you're a solopreneur or you, like you said, in your situation, you're like us, you outsource a lot. You have to find the time to really investigate the tools and then start to learn the tools and figure out how to best use them. And I think that we need to realize our time is one of our most valuable assets. So often I'll delegate that. I'll say, hey, here are 3 new AI tools to our software VAs that I've read about. Review them and tell me how we could implement them and how we could use them, what the benefits would be, and what the learning curve is. So we're always looking at tools and AI specific tools, but always very cautious as to how much time we spend on them before we know what we can really get out of them.
yeah, I mean, one of the places that a lot of people will go to outsource their sort of VA hiring is a company called onlinejobs.ph. And the guy, John Jonas, that set that up, he obviously had an issue. His wife was pretty sick and he had 3 young kids, so he needed to find a way. So he set up this online jobs company. But not only does it help you recruit people, which is quite important, he talks through like how to recruit people, what sort of things to do in terms of the interview process. And again, some of the nuances of Filipino people and what they're like and what they're not like, and some of the challenges that you might have, things like typhoons and natural disasters, which happen more frequently there because it's a big sort of archipelago of small islands, and they all kind of will from time to time, internet will just vanish for 2, 3, 4, 5 days. And you can't really expect people to do work if they don't have that capability to access things. But what was really interesting is not only did you have the ability to be able to recruit people, so you could type in this is what I'm looking for, and they would give you you could put the spec in, and then people would start applying for the job. Once you actually hired somebody, they would have a whole back end of this is the training material that you can give them to show them how to do certain things. I mean, I think it's quite outdated now, but that was, for me, was invaluable, was that I was able to take the training that I thought was okay. I thought, well, if I was going to train them, I'd probably train them on the same things. But there was also things where it didn't quite fit my business. So I would introduce other modules that I could say, this is the way we do things, and it's slightly different than the way it's been taught there. But then that way you're getting somebody who is properly trained. And for me, it's like anyone that you hire, whether it's somebody in the Philippines, somebody locally to you, right? You need to invest in their development, right? You need to invest time and money into helping them get to the point where they can succeed for you. Because if you don't and just expect them to get on with it, right, then they'll fail miserably and leave, and you're back to square one of having to fill a vacancy, which you shouldn't have had. And I'm a bit concerned now that a lot of companies are probably tightening their belts a bit, and they're trying to discourage people from attending live events, attending training sessions because of money. And I think in some respects, that's a kind of missed opportunity, that you still need to send people out to learn, right, and to be educated by some of their peer groups that would be relevant to the industry that they're in. So,
yeah, and I'm sure you've heard this a million times. We hear it all the time. I hired a virtual assistant and it didn't work out. If I have to spend that much time telling them what to do, it's not worth it. And the biggest challenge small business owners have is they don't have SOPs. They don't have standard operating procedures. And we joke that SOPs aren't sexy, but they're the spine of your business. And that's one of these. Yeah, my business partners, one of her unique abilities is creating awesome SOPs. And so whether I'm working with a one-on-one client, like I've hired for law firms, I'll help them hire medical records directors from the Philippines or other countries. Or again, we work with a lot of CPA firms or bookkeeping companies and helping them hire bookkeepers. It's important for me that the companies that are helping them hire, and they have to have really detailed processes in place already. They have to have their standard operating procedures in place in order to make sure that they can onboard that new virtual assistant quickly, plug them in, and get them up and running. The other thing that I really focus on with our clients is making sure that you're a person, just because they're halfway around the world, they're still part of your team and you should treat them like part of your team. And so a lot of our clients have a screen in the conference room. And when they do their Monday morning meetings, their virtual assistants are right there on Zoom in that meeting. And so when you think about outsourcing, like you said before, it's like the grunt work or just throwing people a bunch of tasks. But if you look at it differently, if you look at it like you're investing in a team member who's very, very affordable, and although they're halfway around the world, they can do great work for you and contribute to your business. They can learn new things if you want to invest a ton of money into training them. And they can often move up into different positions in your business. And so outsourcing is really more powerful than I think a lot of people realize.
Yes, it's funny. I've lost count of the number of times I've hired somebody and said, "This is our process for doing this," and like a couple of days later, they go, "Well, I did it that way and it didn't work, but I did it this way instead, and I've recorded it, and this." And I'm like, "Brilliant, we'll use that." That's the way we do it now, because again, like a lot of my SOPs were like, they're quite historically probably out of date. I mean, that's the thing that's always amazed me. I've got a lot of friends in the industry who have written books, and I've never understood the desire for people to write a book, because again, I've seen people that are making 7 figures a year, 8 figures a year going, "I'm writing a book." And when you look at proportionately how much effort they put into producing a book that they may sell a couple of thousand copies of, it's almost like they just have it on their bucket list. I've got to write a novel or write a book, write whatever. And I'm like, good, you do you, that's fine. Right? I have enough trouble reading a book, never mind like thinking about writing one. But what's interesting is that in most cases, if it's a kind of an information book about SEO or something like that, by the time the book arrives, right, probably 50% of what's in there is out of date, right? Because things have moved on. I mean, if you look at it, all the books I've got, not one of them probably mentions AI ever in any of them,
Yes.
right? And it's, well, does that mean that the stuff in it is wrong? I mean, again, one of my favorite authors of all time is Claude Hopkins, who I think died in 1930 or something like that. He's been probably dead nearly 100 years, but he wrote a couple of great books on scientific advertising, and it's, again, you just, for me, I just need to read between the lines. It's not just the words that are there, because it's relating to a period of time when maybe selling was done without technology and everything else. It was all about coupons and clipping coupons and things like that. But it's a great book, and I can see when you look at some of the current big, massive companies like your Facebooks and so on, you can see their model in some of the text in some of these books, right? It's almost like somebody's read and go, well, I can do that and bring it into the 21st century. So,
Yeah, I'm like you. I've never really had that strong desire to write the book. And I think it's like you said, it's the disproportionate return on investment or return on time. And I think that people at this stage, we'd rather watch a video than read, even a blog post. So that's why I think for so many people creating video content, it makes more sense. And then a lot of times for people who have created a lot of video content, they can almost go back and string a book together based on a lot of the things that they've taught in their videos. So it is interesting. But yeah, with marketing, writing a book is so crazy because things change so quickly.
but that's one of the things I love about podcasts is, like, I really enjoy going out walking, right? So typically I'll try and walk for an hour, because if I walk for any less than an hour, I don't feel I'm getting the sort of cardio value out of the actual walk itself. So usually I just put a pair of headphones in, pull up a podcast, listen to it, walk around. And again, I know I probably should have somewhere I'm taking notes and everything as I go along, but I think if I hear it and I'll get back and I'll write down the kind of the notes before I do anything. But again, it's invaluable how often I pick up something great from somebody who's not a kind of direct competitor of mine or anything like that. It's just somebody who has done well as a content creator, video producer, whatever it is, and they're explaining how they took their business from where it was to where it is. And you just put it with your sort of your business, your model, your ideas, and turn it around. I mean, no, very few people come up with a very unique idea. It's just a different spin on the same idea that other people maybe have had success with.
Absolutely. It's funny you say that, because one of the things that we encourage our clients to do if they're starting, a YouTube channel or a podcast, a video podcast, do some market research, see what's already out there. What are other people doing? What's working? What's not working? And it is so crazy to me that small business owners, the concept of market research to them, I don't know if it's just a completely foreign concept or they feel like it's a waste of time. But yet you look at bigger companies, McDonald's isn't going to build a new location without doing a massive surveys and traffic and making sure that this would be a great location. Or they're not going to roll out the McRib until they've done a ton of research and they've run it in a small market to make sure it's viable. And yet business owners will often go on and just create, whether it's courses or content, without ever doing market research. And it's free, it's easy. And you get to see, again, like you talk about competitors, there's people who are our competitors that we can watch what they're doing and learn from them, or learn what they're doing that we don't want to do. But then, like you said, there's a lot of adjacent industries, which are not direct competitors, but you can also glean a lot from their content or their courses or their programs or what they've done to figure out the best way to move forward for yourself.
Yeah, I used to go to a conference in Vegas in January called Affiliate Summit. And again, it's been a great show. I've made some phenomenal lifetime friends from it. And quite often the show is on either just before or just after the kind of the AVN, which is the Adult Video Network kind of shows. And again, to your point, I find it fascinating, because if you look at the adult industry, I'm not interested in the adult industry for the porn element of it. For me, it's the fascination of how they are at like video compression and serving videos and like all the kind of behind the scenes stuff, not the people on camera, but the behind the scenes stuff of marketing and promotion and everything. I just think in a lot of cases, they're so far ahead of other industries. And I've tried to pick people's brains from that industry to understand a little bit more about it. My wife's not so keen about me saying I'm going to go to this porn convention, but it's all research, right?
It's all research, yes. Yeah, but again, it is interesting that you've identified that specific industry is ahead in certain areas. And that does make sense. I think they have a lot of limitations on how they can market. So what they can do, they have to be really good at. They have to figure out ways around it and ways to make it really work for them. So that's an interesting find that you have there.
Things, like I said, video processing, hosting, right? Because again, they have to host big files and serve it in different resolutions. So 480, 720, 1080, 4K. And then obviously you have the payment processing. So in a lot of cases, like they need to understand how that's done. And again, chargebacks and things like that, clearly quite high. So they've gone through all the pain that a lot of industries go through. And quite often you can learn so much from, again, walking the floor and talking to the people that do that sort of thing. Because it's really interesting. I see a lot of people that only go to their industry events. I've got other friends who have started to go to industry events for the community which they serve and have a booth there. So you imagine if you have a kind of an event that's all for lawyers in Chicago, right? And there'll be a lawyers convention in Chicago. There might be 3,000-4,000 people go, right? And there's all these people with different booths for different things. And then there's a person there that's got a booth for SEO or paid search for lawyers in Chicago. And people are like, oh, that's interesting. That's a new kind of take on the type of people that they normally meet. And as you say, like, you don't need to necessarily like land 50 clients. You might just pick up one or two, and that's justified the cost of you being there. And I'm surprised that not more people are doing that. They're still focusing on just their industry events and not thinking a little bit more laterally.
Yeah, it's interesting because we do have a lot of clients who, like, they're enjoying their video content and now they want to move on to speaking. And they don't realize that there's like associations for almost everything out there. So if you can find a local association and you start offering them free courses and you come in and do speaking at their events, they'll eventually tell the state level about you. And then you can move up and speak at the state level. And then if you do a great job there, you might get invited to speak at their national events. But people often don't want to take that first tiny step and speak somewhere like a local association. And if it's your ideal clients, why would you not do that? One of the things I used to always say when we're talking about videos not getting a lot of views or not taking off the way you want them to, I would always ask people, so you're a coach, and I said to you, I'm going to give you an opportunity to speak to 40 people who are your ideal clients, but you have to drive an hour to get there and an hour back, and you're going to speak for an hour. So 3 hours total, unless you decide to stay kind of network. Would you do that? And inevitably people say yes. Well, why the heck will you not spend 1 hour a week creating an awesome video that you put out there? Maybe 40 people see it, maybe 400 people see it. But here's the big difference. It's more cost effective time-wise than it is driving that hour to and from and speaking in person. But more importantly, you've created an asset that's working for you 24 hours a day. So I don't know about you, but we've had videos that have been on our channel for a while, and then all of a sudden they take off. And then you're like, well, what happened there? It didn't get a ton of traction, and then it did. So the video, we're circling back to video, but video has such a powerful return on investment and return on our time. So it's always interesting how I think people think about things. Again, I want to speak on big stages, but I don't want to start with the local associations. I want to get my message in front of people, in front of my ideal clients, and I'll drive an hour to do this thing in front of 40 people, but I won't invest an hour to create a video that could get in front of not just 40 of my ideal clients, but 400 or 4,000 or 400,000. And that asset's working for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for years. So prioritize.
Webinars, a lot of people go, oh, I don't want to do webinars because I only got 3 people that attended my last one. It's, yeah, but there's 3 people live at that time, but that's like an evergreen piece of content that you can promote again and again and again. You can get people to sign up whenever you like, and they can go watch it at their leisure. Doesn't need to, you can make it on demand so they can just get it, but they need to sign up through the kind of the form to kind of get into it. And again, I picked up a bunch of referrals from people through watching a webinar, and I'm like, I didn't do that one. It's like 3 years ago. And I wish I did more webinars. I mean, I want to do more, but in some respects, like I said, I've become more like a podcasting person rather than a webinar person. And I just enjoy podcasting. I definitely have picked up clients from having a podcast. So I'm less bothered about Apple rankings, Spotify rankings. I don't care. But knowing that people have watched it, it resonated with them, and they've reached out to me and said, I watched the podcast episode that you did with this person, and I'd love to talk to you about how we can work together. Great, fantastic. That's it's achieved what I set out to achieve with it, which is to help people, educate people, and if I pick up some work on it, great, fantastic.
Yeah, and for most of us, you and I probably serve a lot of the similar audience, but we sell very different things. So it gives us a great opportunity. Jeannie and I keep a running list of people who provide different services that our clients need so that we can recommend them, because people always ask, someone who does YouTube ads, someone who does this or that. And so for us to be able to say, yes, I met this person, he's a great guy, here's his information, reach out to him, or I'll do an email and introduce the two of you. So we find that from hosting a podcast, not only do you get to have this fabulous conversation with someone halfway around the world you've never met, and I always learn things from our guest and our host, but it's amazing because now you have this new referral partner possibly. And so I think podcasting is magical in a lot of ways I didn't expect when we first started our podcast.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I got to one Christmas. I think I got Christmas one year, and I'm like, I think I'll set up a podcast. So I kind of like went in, did a bit of research. What do I need to do? Hosting company, blah, blah, blah. And before I launched the podcast, I've had some great guests, including yourself. You've been fantastic. I love the conversation. But for me, it was about just trying to take myself and put myself in a area that was outside my zone of comfort, right? I'd done lots of speaking, keynotes, emceeing, moderating, right? But never this kind of thing, right? And ultimately, again, I'd like to think I've developed my own style for doing them, because to me, that's what you should do. I mean, a lot of people, I need to do this, and I'm like, well, if you want to do that, knock yourself out, but that's not the way I'm going to do it. So,
yeah, you have to bring yourself to the podcast, right? Do it in a way that feels right to you, that showcases who you are and how you operate. Because I'm sure if someone's seeing you here on this podcast interview or on any of your interviews, you're the same person that is going to show up on a Zoom call with them to talk to them about working with you and your company. So I think you really do just have to show up as yourself. You host your interviews in a way that feels to you. You can't really step into someone else's shoes and try to be them in any type of video content because it won't come off. It won't feel right to people. I think that's the other thing is we have to show up as ourselves in order for the people to really connect with us.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have industry friends, people that work in affiliate marketing or search, and we've never done business together ever, but I've known them for 20 years. Whenever we go, we always hang out, go out for dinner. They introduce me to their clients. I introduce them to my clients, but we've never actually directly done any work together, but they know me, they like me, they trust me. And if somebody says, hey, do you know anyone in business? Talk to Jim. And ultimately, like I said, I didn't set out with that as the goal, but it's really nice when that sort of thing happens. So I always find like you see there's a lot of maybe agency owners that potentially are struggling right now, right? Because I can't find any clients. And people say, well, how do you find clients? I'm like, I don't. They find me. I don't do any outbound marketing at all. I mean, I suppose by doing podcast episodes, that's outbound marketing, but I don't directly reach out to anyone or anything like that. People just hit me up and go, hey, I've got a problem. I need some help with this. And again, if I like them well enough to pursue the conversation, great. And if I don't think we're a good fit, I'll just say, I don't think we'd be a good fit. But talk to this person, they might be a better agency for you to work with. So for me, again, whether that's just that I'm just very fortunate to be in that position or not, I don't know, but that's where I find myself. So.
Well, it's so smart because when we take on clients that are not ideal for us, it's not a good relationship on either side, and it never really ends well. So I think when you really have a process to vet your clients, and again, we do the same thing. Not everyone is going to be right for our programs, right? So we want to make sure that they are a good fit, and it's going to be win-win, not just for our client, but also for the virtual assistant that they bring onto their team. And like you, we always keep a list of who could we refer someone to if we can't help them, if we're not the best for them. So I love that you do that as well.
I've got other friends that I've known for a while, and they won't refer anyone to anyone else unless there's something financially in it for them, some sort of kickback or whatever. I'm like, I would feel bad if that's the way I was referring people. Well, this person gives me 10% of the value of the deal. This person gives me 20. I'm going to give it to them because I get more. I just don't see how that's a sustainable model that you can work with. It just doesn't sit right with me at all.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with being an affiliate for someone.
No. I've been an affiliate for 22 plus years. I mean, I've been an affiliate for a long time. I don't recommend things that I haven't used and endorse and love. So there's my kind of that's why I'm using it. But at the same time, I make no apologies for being an affiliate. Nobody has ever had to pay any more money for whatever it is I'm recommending they have. Usually I have a kind of some sort of commission deal where I can get a reduction for them by them using my link. So it's more beneficial for them to sign up that way. And quite often I'll get people sign up for a tool or service or whatever. And they go, Jim, I can't get it to work. And I'll jump on a Zoom with them and I'll show them how to do it. And they'd be like, that's fantastic. But for me, I'm just like, well, I just want them to have as good an experience of using it as I had with it.
Yeah, but I agree. I'm not going to refer someone to someone just because they pay me more, so to speak. I think when people have a need, if you are not the fit for them and you do try to find the right person for them, if you have that list of referrals partners you can send them to, it always comes back to you, right? So not referring just because you quote unquote get paid, but referring because you feel like that's going to be the best fit for that person. I feel like that always comes back to us. We can't put out good things in the world and not get good things back.
Yeah. And whenever I attend a conference, I always go and watch first-time speakers, people that have never spoken before. And quite often I'll be like encouraging them from the sidelines to do well. Because again, I just want people to have a success by doing it. So quite often I used to go to a conference and we had this thing called the Speakers Enclave, where the existing speakers had spoken a lot and first-timers. And the existing people would help, if you like, quell the fears of the people that were going to go on stage for the first time. And just talk them through how to deal with it, and then that way everyone's getting something out of it. And some of the people that I went to watch them speak for the first time, I've ended up recommending them to go to other conferences to keynote because they were so good, and they've done incredible things on the back of just that recommendation. Because again, I would never do it unless I'd actually sat in the room and watched them. And whenever I go to a conference to watch speakers, even if the topic is nothing that I've got a kind of any degree of interest in, I will always go to the very front, sit at the very front, right? So I can make very close eye contact with the person speaking, see how they command the stage, how they hold the microphone. Again, there's nothing worse than people presenting slides with 12 bullet points on it and they're just reading it line by line by line. It's just, well, I didn't need you to be on the stage to do that. I could have read it myself. So
yeah. But yeah, I feel like it's always important that you go up and thank the speaker. I just find that if someone's put themselves out there and provided great value and information, just to go up and say thank you. That's one of the things that, and I've made some great connections that way, literally not, oh, I'm a fangirl, I want to meet you, but literally just, hey, you did a great job. Thank you so much. I learned something. And next thing you know, a conversation strikes up. And like you said, you just never know where it'll go.
I was trying to do a praise sandwich. Tell them that they did really well, what you liked and what you thought they did well, something that they probably could do better next time if they did it, and then come back to more praise to send them out. So yeah, I mean, like, at the end of the day, they've taken a lot of time and effort. I remember one of the guys I was working with, he was invited to present at a conference here in the UK, and they had a sort of speed round, right? And each person had 7 minutes to present. And I swear to God, this guy must have done 22 hours worth of prep for a 7-minute presentation. And he was like literally going on stage, hyperventilating. He was so nervous. I'm like, mate, you are so accomplished in delivering this topic. You've got it right down to the second, right? The 7 minutes, bang, to the second. Just get up there and just do it. And he did. I mean, he did a great job. Again, he picked up other speaking gigs on the back of that because he was so thorough in what he'd done.
Nice. Oh my gosh, Jim, I think you and I could talk about lots of topics for hours. This has been such I need conversation.
Like I said, as I said before, I appreciate the time that people have spent with us. If they're still watching at this point, fantastic. It's lovely to have them here still. But Kirsten, I wanted to just, thank you for being such a phenomenal guest. How can people, I mean, all your information will be in the show notes so they can get it there. But if there was one particular place you wanted them to find you, follow you, do something, sign up for something, where would that be?
Yeah. I'm just going to send you guys to our website, which is sixfigurebusinesscoaching.com. There we have links to both of our podcasts. We have links to some free resources, and we talk about like our different programs and how we serve our clients.
And your podcast, certainly the one I watched, was very good. I enjoyed it immensely, even though I'm not necessarily your target demographic. I still enjoyed it nonetheless.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you so much for having me. This has been such a great time.
Good. It's been fantastic. And again, if at some point in time, I'm going to get to the point where I'm going to go, could I get to come back and do a kind of follow-up interview? And I'd love to have you back at some point in time in the future.
I would be honored. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.